What's up, everyone? We are here again, as we were here just 2 days ago, casting StarCraft 2, but now we're casting Brood War. I'm Zombie joined by Fear Dragon, who was supposed to be sleeping, but instead decides to cast Brood War.
Yeah, because, you know, I thought about what I was going to end up dreaming about if I decided to go to sleep. And I figured it was going to be a dream about StarCraft anyway, so why not just experience the real thing instead?
Well, that's passionate of you. So we do have the players in the lobby ready to go. It is a best of 3, unlike the StarCraft 2 version, because it has been a while since I've been here casting, I suppose. Like, more than a month, I think. With last week not happening, and then, of course, winter break happening, it's been quite some time. So, as opposed to the StarCraft 2 version, the Brood War version is just 1v1. So, you have one player representing one school. I think actually that's the exact. Maybe there's like 2 people from one school. I don't remember, but it's not a team league. It is what you would identify more as StarCraft 2. So we do have SoSin, who I do recognize, versus Jeesu, who sounds familiar, but like I said, it's been a while. But both these guys representing, well, I guess strictly Jeesu from Texas A&M, SoSin from UC San Diego. Jeesu having the much better win record. But let's talk about these guys more in game. Both players are ready to go on Tau Cross, so let's get into it.
All right, PvZ is going to be a pretty fun matchup, and like you said, we can talk a little bit more about the players after we go ahead and introduce them on our first map of the day.
Yep, whoa. Gotta get used to the Brood War observer controls again. In the top left-ish spot, it is the purple Zerg. His in-game name is Manor Jace SK, but it's actually Jeesu.
And in the top right, we have the yellow Protoss player. Give it up for SoSin from UCSD.
Now, I feel like things are a little loud, so you guys let me know, but I reduced it a little bit here. As Brood War is a little bit different than StarCraft 2. So, like I was talking about, we do have some pretty different win records for these guys. Jeesu, our Zerg player, being 4-1 in the fall, so really quite good, and is currently undefeated in spring. SoSin, currently undefeated in spring as well, but had 1 win, 3 losses in fall, so not nearly as good.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this is going to go. I remember that before, when I actually was getting to do a little bit more of the Brood War commentary, just because I ended up having to take off, ended up being a little bit more busy during this particular time slot. But when I was getting to cast it, I got to see some of SoSin's games, I think, for 2 different weeks back to back. And man, he was actually one of the players that I think really impressed me. He had some really solid play, kind of played around with like different styles as well. Went for some kind of weirder builds, went for some super duper standard like macro builds. I remember his storms being super on point and just like literally storming his way to victory in a couple of those games where he was even playing a bit from behind. So I'm looking forward to this one.
I knew there was a trick to following a probe. Yeah, it was a good summary, I guess, of the strengths. I mean, when you have Brood War, it does become, I think, even more, unfortunately, painfully obvious when you have a skill disparity. There are so many things to know about Brood War that, while knowing A makes Marines in StarCraft 2 gets you, quite a ways if you also know that SCVs can be made. Not nearly the same thing. I mean, you could actually try and make a lot of Marines in Brood War and fail, even though it sounds very simple, because Brood War is not a simple game. So usually you see a very wide gap, but some of these guys actually had given their thoughts prior to this match starting about just the league and what they thought about their opponents. Just actually like little tidbits from, well, at least Jeesu, I guess, because SoSin was a little more condensed in his,
yeah, he was a little more brief.
Yeah, exactly.
I love his quote especially. He thought that Brood War is love, Brood War is life. That's a great quote.
Yeah, so apparently really does like Brood War. But then Jeesu just has a lot to say about all of his opponents that have happened. But it seems very similar to fall, since the player pool is about the same, which, yeah, the player pool continues on for both seasons. You don't have, like, many disparities, many differences. There's no one really to trade in, because if you trade in someone that's literally a representation of the school. There's one representative per school. So And apparently he's actually played SoSin before. They randomly met in a channel on US West since he goes there, obviously, both in U.S. West, and they're going to play again here.
Yeah, awesome. I actually really just enjoyed those kind of little short descriptions they gave us, because to me that is such a good indicator, talking about the CSL, the kind of students that these guys are. You know, SoSin is that guy that he's the guy that kind of waltzes in on the day of the test, sort of says, yeah, totally, like, I looked at some of the chapters last night or something, well, it'll be fine. And then Jeesu is like the guy who has the super detailed notes. Like, he's got the colored writing, 7 different colored pencils for the different types of notes, so that he can algorithmically like look at his notes only looking at the green text and be able to get a different sense of some particular topic. Like, super organized and has really thorough thoughts. And I always love just kind of reading a little bit further into than I should those kind of small little details of the players.
Well, we just had SoSin's probe taken out, which it didn't really have to be at all. It was trapped in a typical Brood War pathing, so I'm not even sure that it saw that in the bottom position. I don't believe the vision has been fixed in Brood War. Not much to say about that, I suppose, other than I don't think it's been fixed. So even if we wanted to check if he had seen it, it would probably be a lie.
Yeah, but, you know, it is pretty typical, I would say, for Zerg players to try and take that third base in a slightly weirder, slightly off location, I think, in Brood War.
Yeah, well, usually there are more obvious, safer places on the map to SimCity around. Not necessarily that it's closer to your base or farther away from your opponent or closer, I guess. In Brood War standard, Zerg's kind of aggressive. It's more like, what can I SimCity around it? The Zealot ends up being quite the scout. Obviously, that was its entire intention. He just ran right past that sunken colony, gets into the back of the mineral lines, but not so much damage.
Good surround over there also from Jeesu, who actually segments off a single Zergling to go from the other side of the mineral line, make sure that Zealot can't get out. But yeah, just doing a nice job kind of picking off any of the units that SoSin sends across the map. But behind this, SoSin's got actually 2 photon cannons back at home. Watching Brood War wall-ins, whenever I've been playing a lot of StarCraft 2 or watching a lot of StarCraft 2, it's just so disorienting, because I just keep thinking, there's no way this is a good wall, right? But half the time it ends up being like really solid and robust, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're like literally about to see. Nope, and a nope, and a nope. But the cannons basically kill enough lings that it doesn't seem to matter. More lings are waiting, but this is something that a pro pool will be able to take care of. You got to surround. It is a little trickier in Brood War. Corsairs obviously cannot help here at all.
All right, Ling is going to try and go in once again. Actually going in on top of the cannon. The 3 Zerglings also return back as the Zealots are now out of position, having chased those Zerglings over to the main base. Second cannon getting a little bit low, but it should be able to clean up the remaining Zerglings. And SoSin manages to defend, loses a lot of mining time, but doesn't lose too many workers or anything.
All right. Well,
Probe also confirms the location of the 3rd and the bottom.
Yeah, Probe finally got down there, and this is the wall-off I was talking about. Not really possible, and no wall-off is possible, for instance, in the one to the left of it. But on this one, you can eventually get the hatcheries, the evolution chambers. Oh, he killed a drone. Look at that. Wow. And a couple of spine crawlers, or sunken colonies, rather, behind it. But there is the Hydralisk Den. The Lings are still controlling outside of SoSin's base and just run right through again.
Yeah, SoSin hasn't made any additional effort to re-wall off the south side of this wall or to change the walling in on the right-hand side. So the Lings managing to get into a really nice position. They're going to be able to pick off the gas geyser. And in Brood War, you do have just 1 gas geyser, so it really does half the kind of gas economy right now for SoSin. Kind of annoying for him to deal with.
Yeah, very annoying. It's actually a much bigger pickoff than it would be. So the Hydralisk Den is down. I was wondering, is the Spire? Okay, he did put it down on the main base. He got a lair, I mean, fairly quickly. Probably normal, but point is, you wanted to use something for that lair, as Hydralisk can be made on hatchery tech in Brood War, and that was to build Scourge deal with the Corsairs. A couple of, just a single Zealot actually, tried to walk in and do some damage. I did not notice that there's a way back. It actually just walked everything through. These Zealots just walking through, man.
Yeah, the Zealot actually forced a drone pull really, really far across the map earlier on from the south base over toward the north base, just because it was harassing and there just weren't any units out. All the Zerglings had died from the cannon run by and everything, but did eventually get up some Zerglings, got up even a Hydra or 2 now. So should be able to use not only the Hydras, but also the Scourge to try and push back any of those Corsairs. They get a little too far forward. Gets a hit off of one Corsair, does soften it up a little bit, and shields do take a while to regen in this game.
Yep. So, I mean, dive bombing Corsairs can be useful, but maybe not totally necessary right now. SoSin still contained on 2 bases. Is trying to build up that Zealot count with legs, but it's just taking a little while. So really not even maneuvering around with the Corsairs anymore. They're just kind of staying in place. One does go down to the Scourge, and they didn't see that there was a couple of Hydras on the way. I mean, it sees one, but it missed all these ones coming through.
Yeah, no more Corsairs being made either. So it's kind of funny. We end up seeing Jeesu really having a large number of Overlords that are able to sit around the map. And of course he has Overlord speed, and he has that Overlord on the middle of the map. He's sending another Overlord over. So they're not exactly super spread out, but the Zealots starting to move forward really, really far forward. Can they really do this?
Well, especially without Jeesu microing, then yeah. I mean, you let so many Lings and a Hydra die. You do have to micro each section of Hydra's back, so that'll take a long time to die. And SoSin just absolutely wrecks that push.
Oh my god, Zealots so unbelievably tanky. And yeah, like you said, if you're not doing that kind of stutter stat back micro, then the Zealots will really deal out the damage. They're very scary units in the early game. And now they have an opportunity to move down to the south side. Zombie Grub, they're only building creep colonies right now. He doesn't even have the Sunkens on the way.
Yeah, they are fairly fast to build, but not this fast. And was the wall correct is the other question. Unfortunately, it is not. Similar to SoSin's wall, I suppose. Every single thing is able to be gotten through. The Zealots go through every single pathway, and the Sunken colonies kind of protecting each other. The Hydra's popping out, ends up working out okay, but that was scary.
Oh yeah, that was a very scary moment for a second, but yeah, as all the Sunken colonies do finish up, not too many Hydras go down, and it looks like Jeesu is going to be able to push back his opponent. And of course, the Corsair count's still fairly low, so not going to be able to do a huge amount of Overlord pickoffs or anything. We don't really see a whole lot of Dark Templar or anything coming out, as the Jeesu build sometimes does come out. And instead, we just got that robotics facility with the Observer coming out.
Yep, Observatory finally being made. Also fairly quick building to make. You know, really, Jeesu would love to go ahead and contain him further, stopping him at third base, but the amount of speed lots that are available now does not seem possible. The Hydralist count has been called from the very beginning. There's not a lot of Lings covering them. This is that point where you're just going to have to, well, I mean, I want to say get to better things, but usually just overwhelming numbers. You just want to get more Hydras than they have of speed lots.
I mean, these speed lots are getting all of the money shots off. They're getting to the best positions possible. They're obliterating this Hydra count. And I think the Hydras try to go for a little bit of focus fire on some of these Corsairs for a moment, but even that kind of backfires as both Corsairs end up living and more of these Hydras end up falling. SoSin doing really, really well for himself right now. Yeah,
a little scared for Jeesu. I mean, if you have to, and ideally it's in an okay scenario. Okay, then you can get the Lurkers. You can keep up the Hydra contain, and they eventually push out, but it is barely. Then you get into these Lurkers, and then you start sniping their Observers with your Scourge. It's a beautiful dance, but if you're not going to do that, then you're really hoping for just overwhelming amounts of Hydras, and that has not worked. And he's still bleeding Hydras, too, to miss rallies.
Yeah, sorry, as you said, beautiful dance, I saw the Zealot just dancing back and forth, kind of derping with the AI for a moment. Well, all the Zealots just going to be flooding down to the south side. We also have that third base now getting established for SoSin. So behind the aggression, it's taking more of an economy. And, ooh, might actually even be able to... Oh, my God, he's going to intercept all the Hydras as they're moving through this little bridge.
Ooh, this is going to go well for the speed lots. Just not enough damage output. I think on top of those Hydras, and they have to skedaddle away. This should be making Lurker... upgrade if I've had to guess from this Hydra stand that's moving and grooving, and perhaps we'll be able to buy enough time for this. But those speed lots, I think they spell blood. There's no SimCity helping the natural. There's only one Sunken colony. They could take this on.
Yeah, I think that alone is gonna be the big indicator that SoSin should be able to take this fight really handily. I don't even think that SoSin wasn't that active with the Corsairs after the kind of early stages of the game, just because he got contained. So maybe he didn't realize that there wasn't a wall in for a really long time because he's only just now scouting it. But I mean, there are a decent number of Hydras out, and the drones doing some really good kind of micro over here, really buying time versus those Zealots, and they do get cleaned up.
All right, that was a nice hold. The drones, of course, lost a lot of their lives to do so, and these Corsairs have been wrecking the Overlords. They've been popping out and just being chased off. Corsair does die, the last Zealot does die, but, you know, SoSin was able to get a third base with some decent cannons up, lots of probes saturating. Gotta imagine he's on to further tech of himself, too, the Protoss. So there's the Templar Archives. We also have a couple of Dragoons coming out. I imagine that's Dragoon range from the Cybernetics Corps.
And we also have a couple of lurkers being made right now for Jeesu. So he will finally be able to actually, I guess, or I should say SoSin will finally be able to make use of some of those observers that he's been making in preparation for them. But yeah, you got to be so careful about keeping those alive. It is one of the most annoying things as a Protoss player to have to go up against those lurkers and suddenly all your detection dies and you're like, okay, I guess I just got to storm the lurkers and pray and hope that they don't have any more.
Yeah. And speaking of Storm, he does have it. Lands a pretty nice one in the heart of the Hydra army. Almost kills every single one. Still has a decent number of Zealots left over, and I think he has, yeah, a couple more units rallied. This will actually end up giving him maybe a surround, or maybe I'll just cut off reinforcements.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation where you are kind of segmenting off your opponent's army, but you're also setting yourself up to be surrounded, so... it really depends how easily SoSin's going to be able to get through that choke point. The lurkers aren't setting up that close to the wall-in, so maybe the Hydras can deny it, but no, here we go. The big concave coming on in. Zealots actually storming each other. Or sorry, the High Templars storming the Zealots, but now he starts getting some of those Zerglings.
Dang, those Zerglings didn't do very much. I mean, SoSin was almost doubling the supply, now definitely doubling the supply of his opponent, but, you know, in PvZ, certainly the Zerg player can kind of make up a 40 split deficit, I would even say, but I think that was actually just too severe. And the storms, man, there's not much dodging those storms.
Yeah, looks like there might be 1 or 2 storms left over, as there goes down 1, cleans up all these lings, the lurkers, getting some good damage done, but at the end of the day, gonna have to back out. We also had a DT drop on the south side of the map, looking to trying to get some damage done over by the third, but 2 Overlords and 5 sunken colonies, then yeah, that's going to be pretty hard to break.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Jeesu is not giving up here. He's continuing to rally forward. As long as he's not being harassed or the harassment taken care of with a static defense, he can try and push, but what's the next step beyond lurkers, right? And that would be into ultras, but really Archons and well-upgraded Zealots and Dragoons are taking those on too. I mean, there is a point in PvZ, supposedly, where the Protoss gets that army that's kind of like, you scratch your head and like, what do I actually do against this? Mechanics don't sometimes outshine your opponent, but we're not quite there yet. We are at a point where SoSin is just, there's too much supply. He could just move across the map and without huge fault, probably A-move and win.
Yeah, and I really think that a lot of that kind of Protoss army that you were talking about really comes down to having a good number of storms and a player that can actually utilize the storms effectively. And again, like, I want to go back and highlight that in the previous weeks for the CSL, we've seen that SoSin is that kind of player. He is the player that when he has 4 or 5 High Templars and each one of the High Templars have maybe 2 storms available, you really have to be wary about all of those engagements.
Well, this is still going to be a little complicated, but the SimCity, as you recall, is not tight. The Zealots will eventually be able to break through, and there's not enough lurkers to take advantage of even the chokes that they create. So the Sunkens are even going down, as we can see. Storm's going for the drone line. Oh my god. So much red.
Man. If only it killed all the Overlords, those 2 DTs could come back in and then ravage this entire rest of the base, but... yeah, breaking into those Zerg well-walled off areas can be very, very annoying and difficult, and does buy Jeesu an opportunity to try and maybe get some more units out.
Well, he's starting to set up defenses in his natural. This looks like he's willing to give up that third base. Of course, if he gives up the third base, it still wouldn't be a great position, but he will defend his natural. At least his third base will be able to mine again when he gets drones down there, but so many of them died, it's going to take a while. A Zealot bomb in the main base goes after the drones here as the hive is being made, and only 5 lurkers and a sunken are here. If a couple Zealots come in, that won't be enough.
Yeah, this is a really, really nice move right now from SoSin. He knows that all the lurkers and all those remaining units right now for Jeesu have to be at the front line. A couple of the lurkers try and burrow right on top of the Protoss army, but it's just not going to work. It seems like he has been broken, and GG is going to get called.
Indeed. You know, at the last second, I was really paying attention. The observers did get killed. So easy. And I was like, oh, is there gonna be lurkers left? And the answer was unfortunately no. But, all right, GG. Our Protoss player takes game number 1, and in really spectacular fashion too. SoSin having the worst record of the two for fall. Perhaps he had a harder group. I did note that a lot of the really impressive Brood War players did seem to be in the same group. I was like, wow, no wonder these guys are having trouble beating each other out. The guy who's like 0-4 is still looks really solid, and that might have been SoSin actually. That might have been his group. But we'll see what Jeesu can do with another game here.
All right. Well, yeah, it's kind of funny how that sort of ends up working out, where it's like the players that it's so funny. I feel like every single time I see SoSin, he just looks to be really, really solid, and I'm super impressed with him every time. I think they said FS, which...
Yeah, Fighting Spirit.
Yep. But it's so funny, like every single time I feel like I see SoSin, it's like, oh, you know, he's not actually got the greatest score, but he still looks super duper strong to me. And then he always ends up doing really, really well in his match that day. I'm like, okay, I guess so. Sure.
Yeah. Odd. Maybe there's a couple of cases of being cheesed out, or maybe trying different strategies. I'm not sure. But yeah, Jeesu's really played quite a lot of games on this account. I mean, on the server too. Account changes your record, and server changes your record. So you can never quite tell.
All right. Well, as soon as you move down to that observer slot and the players say that they are ready, we can go ahead and jump into this game on Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit, of course, a very, very old school map that's just been around for ages and ages and ages. Good old 4-player map. I always actually really enjoyed that Brood War. It's still like acceptable as opposed to StarCraft 2 to have the kind of multi-map or player map spawns. You have like 4-player maps and stuff for 1v1s.
Yeah. Oh, that's like so much more popular in Brood War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's StarCraft 2. People get upset when there's like a 3-player spawns.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, actually, surprised Artosis, who is usually Brood War did a lot of things better, is one of the like really against 4-player spawns. Well, I guess in particular spawns where you can't tell where your opponent is, because I know some people have suggested like putting indicators of where they did spawn. But anyways, let's get the sound of Brood War up again. Here we go. In the top right, he just lost the last game. It is the orange Zerg, Jeesu.
And his opponent in the bottom left, we have the blue Protoss player sitting up 1-0. It is SoSin from UCSD.
Very good.
What is his sin? What is his sin that is so sinful?
Maybe it's SoSin, you know, and he's like a math major.
Oh, that is SoSin, as opposed to that is so like tangent or so cosine.
I was like really trying hard to remember what the other ones were. It's been a while.
Just gotta remember SoKatoa. Do you remember that?
I was not taught that. No, apparently not.
It was a S-O-H. So it's like sign is... Oh god, I'm gonna make a fool of myself now. Actually, we're gonna stop right there and stop doing complicated math on stream.
Dangerous.
Oh man, I took the math thing to a new level there. I tried to do sine and cosine math. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
that's very dangerous. I don't even remember what they're used for. But
opposite over hypotenuse, that was it. So, and then Ka was adjacent over hypotenuse, and then Toa was adjacent over opposite.
I'll trust you on this one. But yo, look at this statue, man. I never noticed this. The probe just went past the statue, and I guess it's in high detail, StarCraft Remastered. But like, I thought this was a zealot. It doesn't have a face. It's like a Grim Reaper zealot.
I mean, it has a face, presumably, but it's inside of a hood.
That looks so weird. Maybe it's like one of the.
Maybe it's like it's a transition between Dark Templar and like Zealot.
Zealot put on a cape. I'm a Dark Templar.
You can't just use that voice for everything that you feel is Protoss. By the way, we do actually have a fake out pylon over here who's trying to make it look like a Forge First. But the drone did move in and scout out the gateway, so he sees, oh, okay, SoSin, you went for the gateway. You didn't go for the Forge. This is not a cannon rush.
Yeah. I mean, drone scout whether it's, I don't know if it's super popular, but it did happen this time, and it was worthwhile not being, like, that drone scout is worth not accidentally pulling probes, or drones rather, like 6 drones, try and take care of that.
Especially got a little bit lucky with the scouts, because you send the Overlord down to the bottom right-hand side, and you notice like the angle that the Overlord would have moved in, it would have seen the wall in pretty quickly, and then the drone moves to the bottom left. But if for some reason SoSin had spawned in top left, oh man, that would have been so annoying. He really would have had to have taken the potential cannon rush pretty seriously.
Drone's so much faster than a Zealot. That probe could help the Zealot out, believe it or not. If you get behind the mineral lines in the main and then the probe covers one side, it takes twice as long to kill the Zealot. But that's only if it gets to the main base. And unfortunately, Jeesu... Okay, there are the Lings. It's like a little worried that they're a little too late, but here they come to make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, Ling's flooding on out, and the Zealot is going to have to get the heck out of there. But a second Zealot is going to be joining the fray, and it's really worth noting that all 3 of these units together, if they all attack one Zergling, that will one-shot the Zergling. So the Probe actually adding in some very important DPS over here. You'll notice that the Probe wants to try and attack different Zerglings each time, and the Zealot's doing a pretty nice job with the micro, but one of them gets picked off. The last one will be able to hold the line, and it does. Holy cow, well done.
Oh, that was some pretty fancy micro. I mean, I'm sure Jeesu would have saved the probe too, but I mean, that was still pretty cool.
Yeah, Jeesu would have somehow, like, the Zealots act like they have a shuttle or something above them. It's like, how are the Zealots disappearing? What is this micro?
Yeah. Oh, I guess we can't really allude to Jeesu anymore. He's not playing Brood War. He went to the military.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That guy's probably a scrub by now. God.
I mean, people still talk about Boxer when he played and stuff, so I think we can still make the allusions to him.
Oh, but do they? I know what you mean, but I feel like you used the wrong person. No one ever says, like, well, if that was Boxer, he would have 5 racks. Like, no one ever says that.
Just bunker rush right there.
Yeah, maybe I'll say that when I see a T-Rex, but many other people. It's always if Flash was doing that, so could have said that.
Yeah. All right, well, we got the lair coming up right now for Jeesu. Still no sign of that third base just yet, but the drone is... Okay, actually, no, that's just an Overlord in the top left. So, yeah, still no signs of looking to take a quick third like we did last game. These Lings maybe looking to try and get some more damage on with another run by, but this wall is looking a bit more solid. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of players, their first games are on Fighting Spirit. Their first... what build order to want to train with are on Fighting Spirit, so if you're going to know how to wall off on one map, it's Fighting Spirit. This is also a non-complicated wall off because it is obvious, like, you know, side to side, but really nicely done.
Yeah, really subtle thing. If you saw on the left-hand side of that wall, the Zerglings were attacking that probe that was held position, and the first probe actually got picked off, so he immediately had a second probe rally there at the exact moment that first probe went down, so he was able to hold position, keep those Zerglings from flooding on Fortress. If the Zerglings get through and there's only one photon cannon, it actually can just be curtains right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a couple of Zealots have been scouting for Jeesu's third base, and that is really important. Of course, they scout the hidden bases first, and it's not totally unlikely that a Zerg player would take this base against Protoss. That is now scouted and seen that not taken. And this is where alarm bells really have got to be ringing. What could they be doing on 2 base? Well, a lot of things, and unfortunately, you're not going to scout exactly what it is unless you got back in the main, which is unlikely. There's no adept shading in this game. So it is a Spire. I mean, it also could have been, I suppose, 2 base Hydra, but the Spire might be more of something that he's thinking about. And luckily for him, Stargates do, as a solid opener, will help against this.
Yeah, kind of funny though. Right now, I mean, Jeesu has all those Zerglings at the front, and I don't necessarily know until just now that he's actually seen too much of the Zealots actually moving around on the map with the Overlord out there. But even now, the Corsair is going to be out, so Corsair may be able to move in and just barely spot the Spire as it's finishing if he really decides to gun for it and try and get that information. But for now, Corsair just going to go after the Overlord instead, and that is going to buy Jeesu some very valuable time. I wonder if SoSin kind of has a good idea about this. I mean, he is already making more Corsairs, but that's pretty par for the course for a Protoss player. Yeah. I mean, he might stop at, I don't know, 4 or 5, but... not if he scouts the Spire, and not if he scouts Mutas popping out. Scourge it is first. Take care of the Corsairs, and they do manage to grab one right off the bat. Then the Mutas. Wow, that was perfect timing. Yeah, so it's very important to note that SoSin has no idea what was about to come out of that larva. So all he saw with the I mean, he did see the Spire, and he could probably think, like, oh, that is pretty fast, but didn't necessarily confirm the mutas 100%.
Is there eye on their top of the head? I didn't think they had eyes.
Mutas?
Yeah, I thought they were like bats.
They're moving around too much for me to get a really good look at them right now.
You can right-click to follow. Anyways, enough of what the mutas look like. A couple of them get in, but there were more Corsairs. There was a cannon, in fact, and while the mutas were the surprise factor maybe Jeesu was hoping for, they aren't bad units to have to contain the Protoss, and they will, of course, take care of speed lots in a much more assured way compared to the Hydra's last game.
I don't think it's an eye. I think it's like a scorpion's
tail,
claw, kind of, or something, like kind of like the tail, yeah.
But they have like that. Like, I want to agree, but it looks either like two toenails or an eye.
Two toenails. That's pretty great. Well, Vito's actually finding an opportunity to get some damage done. The Corsair's actually sitting over in the main base. The two photon cannons also, they have a very, very good range, photon cannons. So they can push back the mutas, but they really only buy time and still end up oftentimes losing a lot of the workers in the process.
Maybe something is missing from that overlay. The overlay. Yeah, it's fixed now, though. I'll add the score soon, but the mutas are going back in. Mutas come in, Corsairs go out.
Yeah, at least the Corsairs do manage to survive, and SoSin back on production for those Corsairs is definitely going to be pumping them out as fast as possible. I like that these Zealots are still just scouting around for a third, and they're actually still not finding one. So, I mean, Jeesu is going to be really committed to making some damage happen here, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why SoSin is like super comfortable just staying on two bases. If he had no idea what was happening, he'd be really afraid that Jeesu was out expanding him and, you know, trying to move his way towards a third a little too eagerly, but not in this case.
This Zealot in the main base is just, I mean, the mutas are getting rallied across the map right now, so the Zealot is just denying mining in the main base. This is kind of absurd. The second Zealot even going to be able to make its way back across the map, and wow, a bunch of the mutas, almost all of them, pulled themselves all the way back across the map to deal with these two Zealots.
Unfortunate. Not that they're doing too much more, but they, as I said, were stopping SoSin from taking a third base. Now, if he knew they were gone, which I don't think he just figured out, I guess, with the Zealots being attacked. Doesn't move forward. He does have speed lots. He got that Citadel pretty early on, when, you know, at the timing you're supposed to, and I assume he's already got speed on them. Maybe not Storm quite yet as he morphs an Archon here.
Oh man, Dark Templar gets attacked once because it just sneaks just past an Overlord while the mutas pass over on an attack move. But now it gets into the main base, and this DT is just going to go ham on these drones. And it really isn't a great economy right now for Jeesu.
Yeah, even this Overlord in the main base is so slow. DT gets a couple extra swipes as one shot a drone. So really, some nice, not like it is like whatever about the harassment, right? Like a couple of drones go down, the mutas come back. It is just how much scouting is happening and how much this is screwing up Jeesu's supposed plan. Like, I actually don't know what his plan is anymore. I mean, I get the contain for a couple of minutes, but what is the next step here? And the next step really feels like it is going to die. You know, SoSin's making this perfect anti-Ling Muta army, and eventually he'll feel comfortable moving out with it.
Yeah, even got an Archon in the main base, has plenty of Corsairs to deal with a good swell of mutas. I mean, the Archon alone just, if he gets up like 2-3 Archons, I actually just don't know how the mutas are going to be able to handle it.
This DT lived. Like, it leaves it entirely the wrong way. It could escape. It could just leave. It's going to grab whatever drones it can. Oh well.
Go for 3. Got greedy, but does kill every single drone mining from the main base.
All right, sure, why not? Only the natural now mining, again, no third base. And, you know, SoSin has lost all of his scouting. It's going to be really difficult to get something out there except risking their Corsairs now. But I think he's realized, like, okay, you're really just 2-base all-inning, aren't you? But what a weird way to 2-base all-in. This is not really so much about being aggressive and forcing SoSin to do something as it is, I think, hoping SoSin will make a mistake and push out before he's really ready to. Which he's dangerously close with the Corsairs. Archon, what are you doing?
Oh boy. Well, Scourge gets some good damage. I would actually even love, well, I don't know if I would love it, but it'd be cool to see maybe even just one cannon kind of on the closer to the outskirts. Oh my god, these Corsairs going ham with the splash damage on these mutas, and the mutas are going to probably be able to pick off most of these Corsairs, or at least a few of them. Wow, no, most of the Corsairs end up surviving regardless. This is, oh god, this is spiraling out of control.
Yeah, there is a reason why Corsair is considered very good against mutas. It's not that you control them and it's really nice. It's as long as you don't get hit by Scourge, they're gonna wreck mutas.
All right, well, I think that SoSin has homework to do. He's finally knocking down the gateway and saying, okay, I've had it with you. You've contained me for long enough. You're still on 2 bases. Let's do this. And, oh god.
Oh, well, they just disappeared, didn't they? It was like a magic trick.
That's going to actually force out a GG. That was the magic trick. You converted the mutas into 2 letters. GG.
It was a beautiful magic trick. SoSin takes the 2-0. Despite what looked to be such a severe difference in their fall scores, now is the one undefeated for spring, whereas, of course, Jeesu just took his first loss in spring.
Yeah. Overall, just a very solid play, I would say, from SoSin. God, I feel like every single time I get to watch this guy, I'm always super impressed, and he always has this score in the CSL that I'm like, huh, really? Like, is he one of those players that plays way better when he's being commentated? Like, does he do really well under that kind of pressure or something, and he doesn't do as well? Not because he necessarily has like terrible scores in these groups, but it's always like, I think he's just one of the most impressive players I've seen so far in the Brood War CSL, and it's always really cool to see him do or play more games and continue to advance on.
Well, we'll see if he can continue that streak. It is week 9, the opposite of 6. It is week 9, and we still have quite a few more weeks to go. These players are playing for cash prize. Someone, actually a fairly well-known Brood War fan, but someone came in and asked, like, what is CSL? Like, I can't believe I didn't know Brood War did this, but CSL Collegiate Star League, it is college students playing Brood War. There was a StarCraft 2 league last year, and CSL, its roots was Brood War. So years ago, that was like the only thing it had. And it finally got back into it with the release of StarCraft Remastered, and there was enough people to join. Like, some people were really, really eager to show their skill. Like, not as many to make full teams as it was in StarCraft 2, 5 on each team, but still one from multiple schools. I want to say 14 or something like that. But anyways, you can find out more, actually, if you Google Collegiate Star League. You can go right to the Brood War section. You can follow him on Twitter, of course, as well. It's a really great, I mean, it's no longer an initiative, I suppose, but a continued initiative, I guess is what I'll call it, where people still don't know. And then you can actually make, you could theoretically next year be like, I want to represent my school for Brood War. And it may even be easier because you don't have to find 4 friends. There you go.
I was going to say, like, the place where I got started with the Collegiate Star League is I joined, and I was very bad. Like, I think I was exceptionally bad. So much worse than probably the worst players playing the Brood War games today. But I joined my CSL team in, like, early 2010, before StarCraft 2 came out. Actually, I may have been even, like, late 2009 or so. And I got involved with Brood War in Collegiate or CSL, and it was awesome. Just even though it's like this 1v1 game, and even if you're totally out of your depth with all the other people that are playing Brood War around your school or something, or if you're way better than them, you still just have a lot of fun hanging around and talking about StarCraft with people. It's just something about that environment that I really think a lot of people would end up enjoying if they give it a shot.
Yeah. I agree. I wish I had a big enough team back when it was just StarCraft 2, but my school was super, super small. Now, that'll be the end of the cast today, but CSL does return next week. Tuesday is going to be StarCraft 2, and then Thursday will be Brood War once again. That is the schedule for the weeks upcoming until, of course, the championships that happen, I think, around like April or May. Now, both you and me, actually, will not be here for both of those.
Oh, yeah. I just realized that because I found out that I'm not going to be here next week, like 2 days ago, I need to also let Joe know, because he might actually end up being the solo caster for all of next week.
Yeah, so look forward to that, guys. But hope you continue to tune in and you do check out CSL. They also got Dota and actually, I can't remember which other ones they have. Dota, CSGO, and Vainglory is the other one. Yeah. And League of Legends apparently is still in there. So if it's StarCraft 2 isn't like, the game you play with your friends, maybe the other ones are. So that just about covers it. Follow me on Twitter at CG Gaming. Follow FearDragon at FearDragon64, and we won't see you guys, but CSL will see you guys next week on Tuesday for StarCraft 2. Bye.